Well, here we are. My car is finally back. This camera's probably not going to stay there. I've got a better camera mount that I'll try at a later stage. But finally, I have my car back after a very long time having a standalone ECU upgrade. So instead of the 1980s ECU or engine computer, this one now has a modern engine computer on the freshly rebuilt engine. So it's now tunable on a laptop computer and a dyno, which it wasn't before. So it will take a while to refine the tuning over a long period, and a new problem popped up. I'm going to start this one now. Yes, I'm just at the shopping centre. Fairly lumpy cam, so it's a 30-70 valve timing, so it's a fairly lumpy cam for a modern injection to sort of handle. They're mostly used to twin cams, which have a very soft sort of cam grind because they have multiple valves. This one instead has just single very big valves and a single cam. So it means the individual cam lobes use a much higher lift for a performance engine build. And since this one's basically a replica of a 1980s AMG, it's a high performance engine build, of course. Also, with all it still has all the pollution gear attached. None of that's been removed. It's only been upgraded with more modern pollution gear, more modern cat converter that's more effective. Nothing's been removed in that respect. Nothing about the original injection system itself has been removed. The only change from original and option equipment is original factory and dealer optioned equipment is the modernisation of the ECU, and of course, we're just out in suburbs. This is a built-up area. I drive legally and safely, of course. The performance is for weekends at the off-road tracks, like what do they call it, like Winton Raceway and all that sort of stuff. So it's of course not for hooning around on the streets. We don't do that. The penalties are far too severe, and there's cameras everywhere, so it's just not worth it. But it's a very old car, and the performance upgrade has at least made it very contemporary with any of the modern cars. A brand new V6 anything, which is quite a powerful car. It compares well with if not quite a bit quicker. It's probably equivalent or just shy of something like a C43 AMG as far as performance in comfort mode. The power to weight, I mean, that car's about half a tonne heavier than this. These are very, very light, even with the iron block engine. They're very, very light cars. It's only 1280 kilograms loaded curb weight. Whereas the AMG would be more like 1600 kilograms. So it performs very well because it's so light. The target engine output was about 300 horsepower at the crank. That was only achievable with the computer modernisation. 80s computer. So hopefully we can achieve that target, but a new problem popped up with the old original computer. It was unable to be revved beyond 6,200. There was a fuel cutoff that's programmed into the factory computer, but the engine rebuild is actually designed for 7,000 RPM or more. The engine itself is mechanically rated from the factory for up to 7,200, so it's a safe engine speed, plus everything's been machined and balanced and designed and prepared for that engine speed, so it's quite safe as far as mechanical reliability goes. But one thing I didn't know was that an older set of valve springs was reused in the engine build, because they tested fine in a static compression test, but or spring rate test, but I think we may have a metal fatigue issue with those. We're going to have to get new ones because we get valve bounce over 6,000. I already found when I tried giving this the business in low gear, you know, just to test the tune that came back from the dyno with and so forth. And you know, there's adjustments for my driving style. I had to make adjustments to the idle and things like that. I found that when you hit about 6,000 RPM, we get valve bounce, which is a very loud screeching noise from the engine and a significant loss in performance. Obviously, there's no point revving it that high. I can only damage the engine to do so. It needs either brand new valve springs. If that doesn't fix it, we're going to need firmer valve springs. You've got to be careful with that though, because you never want to have too hard valve springs in a high rev engine, especially one that is relatively low maintenance. This is a daily driver that's meant for weekend, track days and things like that, and then it's going to be driven home from those track days. So this isn't a car that's trailered around, and then the following week it's going to be driven to and from. So even my track days are a bit sedate. I take it easy. I preserve the engine mechanically more than risk. It's just for fun. It's not to be a competitive race car. It's just I don't want to drive fast or have any legal problems driving on the road. So you do things like this off-road, in a safe environment that's legal. So that's the thing about all that. So I don't. So the point is anyway, if you get valve springs that are too firm, what happens is they knock the lobes off the cams. It damages the camshaft. Eventually, that's you can go super hard for things like your trailered track cars, because they're only going to be used for short bursts and in a competitive environment. And the idea is essentially an engine only has to last 30,000-40,000 k's between rebuilds anyway. Pretty much a full teardown maintenance. But this engine really, it's going to be lasting a couple of 100,000 k before it gets a full teardown maintenance again. If there's any block scoring or anything like that, we've overboard it as to the maximum ability to put the biggest pistons we could without ordering custom ones and re-sleeving. We've maxed it out at 3.1 litres, and if there's any bore scoring or anything like that from being too brutal with it, we need to toss the block. We can only keep the head, and we'll have to get another block. Which there's tons of them around, but then you've got to rebuild your block. That block will have to be decked and everything like this one, and fucking overboard and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, so that's basically the next. Every engine rebuild that I need to do now with the setup that I've got is basically a new engine block is involved. Not new, but another, grab another used engine block, from a wreckers or whatever, and do all the machining and business that we do with that. So but it's great to have it back anyway. I'll refine it over time. We'll get those valve springs swapped out so I can complete the driver testing and refinement. There's my little plug for the laptop. It plugs into the ECU. It sits here like a USB thing. I haven't got the laptop out here at the moment. I've already sort of set it up how I want over the last couple of days. But yeah, that's it. On the way, getting there. Eventually, I'll do a proper walk around and everything. Actually, I'll do a little walk around, but I'll have to turn the camera around. Yeah, so here's the interior. Pull out the keys. Yes, little study steering wheel. Yeah, everything's just totally, pretty much stock looking in here. Gotta have fire extinguisher. The whole idea about the whole build is that basically everything's essentially standard looking, or as little. The main thing is to it's a daily driver. It's to keep it legal. Performance equivalent to any of the modern performance cars, but they're legal too. So, the idea was to build this so that it would be, I prefer driving an older car to a newer car. I don't like dashboard screens telling me what I need to do, when I can change lanes, when I have to get a service. I don't like any of these things. It's very annoying. I'll tell the car what it's going to do. I'll tell it when to stop, when to go. I don't even like the intelligent braking that you have on the current model Mercedes. I find it very disorientating when I start driving fast. I need to balance the car. I need to be able to predict how much braking power I'm getting from how much pedal power I push in. And that's not what intelligent braking systems do. They brake assist and everything. You put your foot on, give one set amount of pedal pressure, and it will engage progressive braking and intelligent braking and all this sort of business and do different amounts of braking. You can't balance a car like that. You need to, if you're going to race that car on the track, first thing you got to do is disable all that. In fact, disable all those kind of systems, all the driver assist systems. It's the first thing you got to do. Otherwise, you're screwed. You can't balance the car. You're going to wind up up the embankment, or up against the wall. But anyway, so it all still looks fairly standard. It's it doesn't look any. There's nothing visible different from the factory. Everything's all, but you might notice there's a sensor here. The ignition module is custom. Up behind the up behind the battery where you have the ECU compartment, there's new ones in there, different. Aside from that, it's just you have to look for them, and then you'll see a bunch of sensors. It's a water methanol injection tube there. It's piped into to the upper throttle body. So it all looks fairly, like it's not something you'd that would get put off the road for off-road only modifications. All the pollution gear is still there. There's cat converters. That's the exhaust has been fabricated, but it's been fabricated to incorporate all the legal emissions control systems. So the EGR, everything that was fitted from factory as far as the emissions equipment, that's all still there. Nothing at all different about that. Actually, it looks better on camera than it does in person, because the wheels, got the Lorenzo wheels, twin 2.5 inch system. It's a single 2.5 inch, but twin 2.5 inch tailpipes. Yeah, it's debadged. Yeah, got the nicer sort of tinted tail lights, the smoky ones. Of course, the brake lights aren't allowed to be tinted in any way. That's unroadworthy, but you're allowed to have a smoky tint on indicators, so long as they still brightly flash, which they do. The reverse lights still brightly flash, but the red section is not tinted at all. So the brake lights are very strong and very bright, and the normal lights for night driving are also clearly visible, and all that sort of thing. So it's basically, the theme has been performance with legality. I just wanted it to be basically the same thing as, instead of buying, like say a C43, which if you put that in sport mode, it'll kill this thing any day of the week. But talking more like let's say a C400, or E400, or a C300. That's Turbo 4. It's got a high boost. They are very fast, very sort of modern, very well engineered. The C300 or something like that. Instead of buying that, I'd rather be driving this, but I want to be able to drive it like that, or keep with those cars. So that's sort of the idea behind it. This modernisation. I prefer driving the older cars. That car's from my era. When I got my license, that model was the latest one. That was the current latest newest Mercedes, and that was the one I'd want. I didn't really know about them at the time, but I did like other current models. There was Saab 900s, things like that I liked. So anyway, cheerio.